Are you worried about fruit? Growing up, you've always loved fruits like apples, peaches, and berries, and now you see so many delicious summertime fruits available. But you also have diabetes and want to eat plant-based to better your health. How is this all going to affect you? Maybe you're also wondering, will eating too much fruit be bad for a person like me with diabetes? If these are your questions, let's talk about them on today's podcast. In this episode, we'll look at this question of fruit and diabetes, whether you can eat it, and if eating too much fruit will be bad for your blood sugars. I'm so excited to delve into this topic with you in this second episode of the summer series. Ready to learn more? Let's go! Welcome to the Plant-Based Eating Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Anna Zinn, plant-based registered dietitian and transition coach. Hi friend, do you want to regain your health with plant-based eating but feel overwhelmed and lost about how to do it? Do you feel it'll be hard to change your meat-heavy diet and impossible with working, running the home, or chasing after the grandkids? If so, you're in the right place. Here you'll find simple strategies, clear nutrition guidance, and practical tips to help you thrive plant-powered with more energy. So if you're ready to ditch the guesswork and transform your health the stress-free way, cozy up now with a hot cup of tea or listen while you walk, and let me show you how doable plant-based eating can be. Let's do this. Hi friend, in case you missed the news, we're currently in the middle of a special summer series I've put together for you. In this series, we're looking at some selected questions my community members have brought up to me about plant-based eating. And I've decided to spotlight them here because I want more people inside and outside my community to benefit. These are questions coming from my podcast, email, and Facebook communities. So if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to continue to tune in so you can benefit from all the episodes in this series. And if you have a different question about plant-based eating you would like answered on this podcast as well, send it to healthnow@plantnourish.com or leave me a SpeakPipe message using the contact options in the show notes. I always love hearing from you. Now let's move into today's topic. Some time ago, I received this email in my inbox from a member of my community. She wrote, I have a question about how fruit may affect a person that is pre-diabetic or diabetic. I know fruit has natural sugars and it's not the same as white sugar or artificial sugars. But will eating too much fruit affect a person with pre-diabetes or a person who is a type 2 diabetic? This is a great question and one I'm sure many may have because so many of us now either have diabetes, prediabetes, or know a friend or loved one who does. I myself have had gestational diabetes for all my pregnancies, and I remember the anxiety I had during that time about high blood sugar levels and the worry I had about eating certain foods like bread, pasta, rice, and fruits. These were foods traditionally branded by doctors and diabetes educators as being carb-containing and which needed to be monitored. That's why I felt today's topic needed to be addressed on this podcast. Now, there's a lot I could talk about when it comes to diabetes, fruits, carbs, and plant-based foods, because it is a truly complex area with quite a number of factors involved that can all have an impact on a person's blood sugar level. But in this episode, I want to focus on a few key important points you need to know. First of all, I agree that eating fruit is completely different from that of eating white sugar and artificial sugars. When you eat a piece of fruit compared to a tablespoon of white sugar or honey, the effect will be different on your body and your blood sugars. Though fruits do contain small amounts of simple carbohydrates like glucose and fructose, they also come packed with so much more. These include water, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and phytonutrients. That's why eating them is more beneficial for your body than drinking just a tablespoon of honey or eating a piece of candy. In fact, many people don't realize just how much water is contained in fruit. For example, a piece of watermelon, which tastes super sweet and is a favorite of my children's, contains more than 90% water by weight. So 100 grams of watermelon will give you a completely different amount of carbohydrates than 100 grams of white sugar, because most of the watermelon is water. The kind of carbohydrates found in fruit are also largely different from that in white sugar. For example, fruit often contains complex carbohydrates like starch and fiber, in addition to a small quantity of glucose and fructose. One avocado, for instance, contains about 13.5 grams of fiber and 0.2 grams of starch. White sugar, on the other hand, is nearly 100% sucrose, which is made up of two simple sugar units, a glucose molecule and a fructose molecule, joined together. So yes, fruits can and should be eaten as part of the diet for someone who has prediabetes or diabetes, especially if that person is looking to eat more plant-based. Besides the beneficial nutrients fruits provide to nourish our bodies, there can be other health impacts from eating fruit. Research, for example, is showing that certain fruits, such as blueberries, can actually help with blood sugar control. If you would like to learn more about this, listen to episode 80 after listening to this episode. I will link that for you in the show notes. Now on to the second part of this member's question. Will eating too much fruit affect a person with prediabetes or a person who is a type 2 diabetic? And the answer is this. In general, if this person is on a full whole food plant-based diet, it shouldn't as much. But the impact of fruit consumption really depends on each person's individual circumstance. Some key areas that need to be explored would be the level of insulin resistance the person has and what their diet is currently like. It would also be important to know where a person is in his or her plant-based diet transition journey, the actual kinds of plant-based foods eaten, and his or her current amount of daily fat intake in terms of oils and saturated fats. But there are so many other factors that need to be explored as well, such as how long a person has had diabetes, how severe the diabetes condition is, what diabetes medications he or she is currently taking, if any, and even that person's exercise and activity levels. What many people don't realize too is that the form of fruit you're eating can also impact a person's blood sugars, sometimes in a big way. That's because different forms of fruit have different effects on one's blood sugar. The clearest example of this would be eating a whole pear versus drinking half a cup of pear juice. The whole pear will cause a slower rise in blood sugar levels than the pear juice. A key reason for this is that the whole piece of fruit will take longer for your digestive system to break down and digest, compared to the pear juice, which has already been processed quite a bit. It would have had important components like the fiber and much of the pulp already strained out and removed, so the resulting pear juice would be much more quickly digested by your body. So going back to this member's question, eating fruit in the form of juices will definitely impact a person with diabetes or prediabetes more than eating a whole piece of fruit instead. So today we looked at the benefits of consuming fruit and how different fruit consumption is compared to foods like white sugar. We also looked at different factors that can affect how much fruit a person with diabetes or prediabetes can have, including the form of fruit to be eaten. The good news is that in general, for a person with improved insulin sensitivity after a period of eating a full whole food plant-based diet, he or she should be able to enjoy a lot more fresh or frozen whole fruits without it impacting his or her blood sugar levels as much as expected, or needing as much insulin or diabetes medication coverage. In all cases, though, a person moving to a whole food plant-based diet should continue to monitor his or her glucose level closely and make changes to diabetes medications only with the doctor's approval for safety reasons. I hope you see the complexities of answering today's question, and that it's not as straightforward as one would immediately think. There are many factors that need to be considered. This is one reason why it can be really helpful to work with a dietitian experienced in plant-based diets to help you improve your blood glucose control over time as you move into a whole food plant-based diet for optimal health. If you would like my support in helping you reach better health and lower blood sugar levels, send me an email at healthnow@plantnourish.com or reach out to me using the contact options listed in the show notes. I would love to connect with you and see how we can work together to help you build the best health so you'll have more energy and precious time to spend with loved ones. Thank you so much for listening. If this podcast has inspired, encouraged, or helped you in some way to transform your health, I would love to hear about it. Please take 30 seconds to rate and leave a written review on Apple Podcasts to let me know. It will encourage me so much to hear how this podcast has positively impacted and made a difference in your journey towards wellness. And share about this podcast with a friend or loved one so we can all thrive in the best health. Remember, plant-based eating can be easy and doable. See you in the next episode, my friend.